guys, I am Kenya and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I want to do a book review. So you guys know, you should know that I'm an avid reader. I love knowledge and I'm a very curious person. And if you don't know, I'm an occult science nerd. I love occult science, occult knowledge, whatever you want to refer to it as. And it's basically just lost knowledge, that's all. When people hear the word occult, they start getting creeped out and they think it's something bad, but it's really not what you think it is, okay? I have this book here. It is called The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, and it is volume 1. So we all know when we hear the flower of life, we automatically think of sacred geometry. Well, I do, okay? So let's get a close-up look on this book. So it just has like the flower of life around here. This book was written by Drunvalo Melchizedek. That's a hard one. Anyway.
So Drunvalo Melchizedek was born Bernard Donald Perona. He is also known as Akbar or Hummingbird. He legally changed his name in 1991. He is an esoteric researcher. He also founded the School of Remembering. He has also been linked to the Seed of Life Institute. He claimed to have studied physics and math at the University of Berkeley and received a BA degree. However, there is no evidence that he has done so. He's also written 4 books on the topic, and it seems as if the name Melchizedek was inspired by the priest Melchizedek that was mentioned in the Bible. Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Melchizedek was mentioned twice in the Old Testament and once in the New Testament.
So Melchizedek's books was originally published in 1990, and since then this book has been republished several times. So I got my notes down here. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life was inspired by a workshop called The Flower of Life, which Drunvalo was doing these workshops between the years of 1985 until 1994. So he wanted to make his workshop available to everybody. He created a VHS cassette tape version of it in 1993. So in order to see him at these workshops, you know, he would have to like book out venues and you have to get like tickets to attend. And so he wanted it to, I guess, be available to more people, so that's why he put the VHS tape out in 1993. However, he didn't think that the tape was translating well, you know, and he wanted to create a written format. He figured that his written format would explain, you know, his workshops better than a VHS cassette tape. These workshops were more so for people to learn the Merkaba meditation. And so here we are. So definitely pick this book up here. And I would say that there wasn't much sacred geometry in the first volume. I feel like the first 3/4 of the book was about the history of, you know, just Egyptian religion and things like that. And then like the last quarter of the book, he did speak on sacred geometry. And, you know, he talked about the binaural sequence and the Fibonacci sequence. If you are like a computer science major, you're into computers, then you know what those are. He talks about Metatron's cube, the Platonic solids, and how they, you know, contribute to Earth and make the universe go round, basically. In a nutshell, that's how the best way I can explain it. When you're reading any type of occult knowledge or anything like this, you have to use your common sense. You have to use your common sense. You have to take from it what you can and just throw the rest away. But you must exercise common sense if you're going to read materials like this. So if you're not into this type of stuff and you're just here for my real estate stuff, maybe you just are here, you know, because you're curious, I'm about to tell you right now. When you're getting into occult knowledge, things could get weird, okay? They can get very, very weird. So I'm going to start talking about some things in this book that stood out to me. It's not going to be, there was just so much knowledge in this book. I felt like I feel like when I was reading the reviews on Amazon, everybody was like, oh, I already know this stuff, just skip it, go to the second book. But for me, most of the stuff was new information for me. So I learned a lot reading this book. And I read the book very slowly so that I could grasp and understand what the author was talking about. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I learned a lot. So I'm just going to just tell you guys some things that stood out to me in the book. That had me like, wait, hold up, what? Wait, what? So like I said, when you're dealing with occult knowledge, things could get a little bit weird. So we're gonna get into it. So I always hear about, you know, in ancient Egypt, you know, there were basically giants who walked the earth, and this is how the pyramids were so big. This is why the stones are so huge. And we always wonder, how could humans, or how could man build these pyramids? Like, how is that possible? Like Drunvalo, he answered a few of my questions about that. So we always hear of Nephilim. Nephilim are these huge beings, these terrestrial beings that come from a planet called Nibiru. It's the 12th planet, which is called Nibiru. And basically, I always, you know, hear that, you know, these beings came down from outer space somewhere and they came to Earth. And I always wonder, well, what did they come here for? Like, why are beings coming to Earth? Like, this is what I always wonder when I always hear like these ancient Egyptian stories about how like these giants were here from space or whatever. And I'm not sure if you guys are religious, but in the Bible, I think it's Ezekiel. Don't ask me what chapter, which verse. I don't remember. They talk about the mothership, and they talk about basically these ships coming down from space and coming to Earth. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, it could be possible that these beings came down from Earth, came down from outer space to Earth. But why? Why they come here? So, as I read the book, he talks about how basically on the planet Nibiru, they were having problems with their ozone layer, and so they came to Earth and they were mining gold, and they were using gold dust particles, and they were sprinkling it on the ozone layer to keep the sun rays out, you know, to preserve their planet. So that's the reason why the Nephilim or Nephilim species were here on Earth in the first place. Okay, so if you were ever wondering like, well, why was the Nephilim here? Like, why were they here? What were they doing here? What was the purpose of them being here? That's the purpose. Okay, when these beings called Nephilim came here, they landed in what is called modern day Iraq, what we call Iraq now. So now let's get on to these topics that I wrote down, which is not really that many, that had me like, wait, what? Hold up. So Drunvalo, in this book, he talks about how how do I put this? So if you know anything about Hermes, is a man who came back multiple times in multiple lifetimes. And so, you know how somebody might say God told them or Jesus told them? Well, Drunvalo was saying, you know, he got a lot of this information from Hermes Thoth that he wrote in the book. He says that Thoth told him these things, all right? So keep that in mind. It was a little different to me to hear him keep saying that Thoth told him the information that he was telling us in this book. But you got to keep an open mind when you're reading materials like this. This is what I'm saying. So you got, that's where it goes back to take from it what you can and just throw the rest away. So we always hear about the Bermuda Triangle, right? We hear about planes going down near the Bermuda Triangle, boats disappearing near the Bermuda Triangle, all that stuff, right? What is known as the Bermuda Triangle was where an island called Atlantis was, and the people of Atlantis knew that the island was going to sink. So what they did was they built a synthetic Merkaba. I'm going to try to put one over here so you guys could see. And it is believed that you have an energy field around you, which is called the Merkaba, you know. And so they were trying to create this synthetic Merkaba, which fell into the ocean. And in the book, he says that half of the synthetic Merkaba is sticking out of the water. I don't know how true that is. I'm not sure if he meant that metaphorically, meaning like you're not going to visibly see the Merkaba sticking out of water, but it's there, you know, this energy field is there that they created. So I thought that was interesting because I've always heard stories about the Bermuda Triangle, and always hear, you know, stories about, you know, just things disappearing. I thought that was interesting to just share with you guys because that stood out to me. And also the author Drunvalo said that there are 5 levels of consciousness, right? This is where it gets interesting, right? 5 levels of consciousness. The first level of consciousness is where the Aborigines of Australia is at right now. That is where they are right now. And so people, Aboriginals of Australia and New Guinea, he says, are at the level 1. But I don't think Drunvalo realizes how spiritual the people of Australia are. Like they have like a lot of spiritual practices and things like that. I don't know, I did a little reading and studying on them too. And so it seems like, you know, primitive, uncivilized, but they're very much spiritually in tuned. I don't believe that they're at level 1 of consciousness, period. And then he also says that people born with Down syndrome are stuck between the 2nd and 3rd level of consciousness, and when they were made, they didn't get the instructions correctly, so they are between number 2 and 3 of consciousness, and that's why they have Down syndrome. This is what he wrote in the book. I'm not saying it's true, but it's interesting. He glossed over what Christ consciousness was, and he also talks about a Christ grid. And he was saying something like through South America, like there is this grid where a lot of the pyramids were built. If you don't know, there are a lot of pyramids in South America. People are very spiritual in South America. If you read any of Miguel Don Ruiz's books, he's very spiritual and he is of South American Toltec tradition. So he's saying that there's this Christ grid that all the pyramids are located in South America, and there's also like a grid in, you know, Egypt of how these pyramids were built. So he speaks on that, and he also speaks about a species of people called the Greys, right? There's a species of people called the Greys, and he speaks of a 23-year-old Peruvian woman in the year 1993. So in 1993, she was 23. She figured out how to connect to the earth and connect to the crystals on the earth, and she was able to I'm not laughing at the author, I'm just pointing this out. She was able to lift a spaceship up, you know, with her energy up into the sky, and she was able to visualize the species of people being sick if they did not leave with the spaceship. And so these people called the Greys, or the species, started to die out. So I have to read more on the Greys because this is the first time I've ever read or heard anything about a species of people called the Greys. And so yeah, she went over to one of these pyramids that was in this Christ grid, and she was able to do a little whatever, her energy field. And so I thought that was interesting. Like I said, when you're dealing with occult knowledge, things can get a little different. So, you know, a lot of occult knowledge and things you'll learn about, like the Sumerian tablets, a lot of this stuff predates, you know, religion. It predates, you know, Christianity and things like that. So if you are a hardcore Christian, Muslim, or Jewish person, if you are, you know, one of the 3 Abrahamic religions and you read this, it may not resonate with you because it does go against what you may already believe. And one thing I'm learning is that Egyptian religion, Christianity, I would say, it parallels Egyptian religion. But you know, as modern times have come along, a lot of the old Egyptian symbols don't even mean the same thing that they mean today, and the meanings have been changed, and some things you think are bad are really not bad. The meanings have just been changed. Drunvalo also touches on Nikola Tesla, and he talks about how Nikola Tesla came up with something called 0-point technology, where you could power homes and cars without using electricity. but JP Morgan had a monopoly on the utility or the electricity market, or however you call it, and he was getting paid from that industry. So they sort of kept Nikola Tesla's inventions quiet because JP Morgan wanted to make money from electricity, you know. And it's kind of crazy how us as humans, we would mess up the earth just to make money. We will ruin the earth just to make money. You know, we're drilling up all this oil, mining all this gold, digging up all these crystals. Now, I love a good gemstone. This is like tourmaline, and I have smoky quartz on my arms. But I read that last year they excavated 3 times as much as they have in any other years because of this big new age crystal phase. And in the book, he talks about how the earth is crystallized. Like, you know, we have so many layers of our earth, and 25% is crystallized. It's covered in crystal. So why do we continuously keep digging up these minerals? Like, we're chipping away at the top layer of our earth. Like, once that's gone, like, what are we gonna do? And if we keep mining gold when that is supposed to be precious, and we know that's what Nephilim came down here to get, like, I don't know, it just seems strange to me how us as humans, we're ruining our planet. But then again, Drunvalo, he talks about so many different things in this book. When I say it's packed, I'll be here all day talking if I continue. I just want to give you the gist of what I thought about the book. I thought it was an excellent read. It was an informational read. It's a lot of information, so I would read it slowly, and if you have to take breaks because it's just a lot of information. And I have volume number 2. Like I said, I'm only 5 pages in, and this book I feel like will talk more about the Merkaba meditation, and that was the whole point of Drunvalo creating these 2 books. It was based off of his workshop where he was teaching that. So, and I'm definitely into meditation. I do meditate a lot, and yeah, so the second volume starts off where the first volume left off. So it starts off at chapter 9, Spirits and Sacred Geometry. So if you have read this book and you got your 2 cents to add them. And if you could recommend any other types of books that would complement these books that I could read afterwards, because, you know, I'm just really interested in this stuff, let a sister know in the comments section. And yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys in my next YouTube video.